This might be the most bizarre streak of bad luck in history. A man simply went to sleep, and when he woke up, his country had vanished from the map. As he stepped off the plane with his suitcase, instead of being greeted by the Statue of Liberty in New York, he was thrown into the world's most bizarre survival challenge, living as a modern-day Robinson Crusoe in an airport. The man named Forrest was informed right after landing that his country had plunged into civil war, rendering his passport and visa useless. He couldn't enter the country, nor could he leave. Forrest was stranded at JFK Airport in New York, becoming a stateless ghost. Frantically, he searched for a TV broadcasting in his native language, but all he found were channels and languages he couldn't understand. In this unfamiliar environment, Forrest felt like an isolated island in a sea of people, as if the entire world had abandoned him. Yet, despite this, his helpful nature remained intact. When a girl struggled to close her luggage, Forrest eagerly stepped in to assist, not even noticing that his meal voucher had blown away in the wind. As night fell, Forrest found himself in a deserted waiting area. Beyond, leaving wasn't an option for now. Forrest was starving, but his love for life kept him from dwelling on his troubles. He quickly spotted a money-making opportunity. Returning shopping carts to their designated spots earned him a 25-cent deposit per cart. Most busy travelers didn't want to waste time on this, so Forrest started collecting carts everywhere. With the money he earned, he bought himself burgers. Even in tough times, Forrest never forgot to tip. After tasting success, he worked even harder. His cart life became second nature, and his meals improved, even upgrading to fancy combos. While eating, the TV played news about his homeland, but Forrest, unable to understand English, could only feel anxious. So, he strapped on a miner's headlamp and started teaching himself English. Every day, Forrest visited Camorra to apply for a visa, just to practice his speaking skills, leaving Edward completely stunned. Day after day, Forrest stuck to his cart money-making plan. Upstairs, a bald guy in management decided to bully the honest guy. He assigned a transporter at the airport to steal Forrest's income source. With no income, Forrest resorted to eating free sample cookies. Then, something unexpected happened. Edward from the airport kitchen offered a helping hand. He wanted to win the heart of Visa Officer Camorra and sought Forrest's assistance. Happily, Forrest played matchmaker, chatting up Camorra daily, while Edward treated Forrest to good food and drinks. Not long after, Baldy came back with his tricks. He hinted to Forrest that if he admitted to being afraid of returning to his own country, he could apply for political asylum and leave this place. But when Baldy took Forrest to apply, Forrest didn't fall for his scheme. Baldy, furious, kicked Forrest out of his office. Just then, a beautiful flight attendant slipped and fell in front of Forrest. A smirking old man with white hair watched from a distance, but only Forrest stepped up to help. However, the flight attendant turned and walked into someone else's arms, leaving Forrest standing alone like a lonely dog. Soon after, Forrest ran into Jenny, who was heartbroken. Sensing Forrest's kindness, Jenny invited him to dinner. But Forrest, unable to leave the airport and with no money, tearfully declined in broken English. Determined to save up for a proper meal with Jenny, Forrest started looking for jobs but kept getting rejected because no one wanted to hire someone without papers. Frustrated, Forrest passed by a construction site and got to work using his old skills. He worked through the night, fully immersed in his craft, and finally completed his masterpiece. Forrest's work impressed the construction crew, and they hired him on the spot. Baldy, watching all this, tried everything to get rid of Forrest, but no one wanted to take on the trouble. Then came the day of the big inspection. An Eastern European man caused a scene at the airport. He was trying to take life-saving medicine back to his country, but without proper documentation, the customs officers had to hold it. The man, desperate, threatened to kill himself to protect the medicine. With no one able to understand him, Baldy had no choice but to bring in Forrest as a translator. Through Forrest's communication, it turned out the medicine was for the man's sick father. The man even knelt down, begging for mercy. But rules are rules, and Baldy insisted they had to follow them. Forrest, quick thinking, lied and said the medicine was for goats, since veterinary medicine didn't require inspection. But Baldy saw right through the lie. He grabbed Forrest by the neck and berated him, only to be caught red-handed by the inspectors. Baldy lost his chance for a promotion. He'd been stuck at the airport for over a decade, hoping to climb the ladder and leave, but now it was all ruined. On the other side, after the white-haired uncle learned about Forrest's story, he started spreading the word everywhere. From that day on, Forrest became the hero of the airport, and everyone showed him respect. To help Forrest find love, his friends figured out the schedule of the flight attendant, Jenny. They all worked together to create a chance encounter between Jenny and Forrest. Forrest invited Jenny to a candlelit dinner, but unexpectedly, his pager buzzed with a message. Seizing the moment, Jenny shared her own story. She had fallen in love with a married man who kept delaying giving her a home. Forrest realized that both he and Jenny were trapped by fate. Then, Jenny's pager rang again. She mustered the courage to throw it away, seemingly no longer bound by her emotions. When they parted, Forrest received a kiss from her. Meanwhile, Edward sought Forrest's help to propose to Camilla. With Forrest's assistance, Camilla finally agreed to Edward's proposal. They held a simple yet romantic wedding at the airport. Forrest also started his happy renovation project. Knowing Jenny admired Napoleon, he decided to surprise her. After finishing, he invited Jenny to see his work at the right moment. Jenny was amazed by what she saw. Forrest opened a can he carried with him and revealed his purpose for coming to New York. It was about his father, who had been a fan of 57 musicians. Forrest had already collected 56 signed photos of these musicians to fulfill his father's dream. His trip to New York was to find the last musician. The next morning, when Forrest woke up, Edward brought him good news. The situation in Forrest's country was under control, and Forrest could go home. Everyone at the airport celebrated for him. Jenny also brought Forrest a temporary visa. To get this visa, Jenny went back to that man. Happiness always arrives suddenly and then leaves just as quickly. Both of them got what they were waiting for, but there was no smile on Jenny's face. Forrest looked at her but said nothing. Carmela told Forrest he could go to New York, but they were missing the signature from Baldy. As usual, Baldy made things difficult for Forrest, even threatening him. If Forrest didn't leave, his friends would be in trouble. Baldy knew the hidden identity of white-haired uncle. 20 years ago, white-haired uncle accidentally injured a cop and fled to New York, living under the radar. If he returned to his hometown, he'd face 7 years in prison. Forrest had waited at the airport for 9 months to fulfill his father's dying wish. He was so close, but for the sake of his friends, he gave up on entering New York. Forrest had no choice but to prepare to return home. Everyone was angry that Forrest couldn't achieve his dream. Just as white-haired uncle was about to lose it, one of Baldy's men told him the truth. Baldy was in a good mood, finally getting rid of Forrest, the jinx. But then chaos erupted at the airport, and the most emotional moment of the film unfolded. White-haired uncle fearlessly rushed toward the plane. After 20 years, he finally convinced himself. It was the most beautiful flight delay in the world, and everyone at the airport came out to see Forrest off. The door to New York finally opened, and amidst everyone's blessings, Forrest finally left the airport. He ran into Jenny again, and they shared a smile. Life is a journey, and so is farewell. Life is destined to be a waiting game, so make the process as brilliant as possible. Forrest's story teaches us that even in the most desperate situations, we must find our own light. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories.